Okay. Welcome to Yossi. Thank you for joining. We missed you yesterday. We had you in mind. We're holding here in the Gemara Daf Gimel Amud Aleph 3a. At the end of the Gemara part, we'll have a small, you could say, review quiz of the previous Amud. Hold on. Yes. As our Mishnah said, there are 4 Rosh Hashanahs of the year. Not just one, there are 4. What are the 4 Rosh Hashanahs of the year? One is a new year for the kings. Say this is the first year of the king, the second year of the king. One is for Meiser Behema, for giving every 10th kosher animal that you own to the as a karban in the Beis HaMikdash. Morning, Reb Pinchas. Morning, Mr. Nadich.
Good morning.
One is the new year on Rosh Hashana, for when everybody and everything in the world gets judged for the year. And one is on the 15th of Shvat in regards to Meiser as well. We were trying to get the reasoning behind why is Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the first of Nisan, why is that considered to be the head of the new year? Here are the months of the year: Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Teves, Shvat, Adar, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, Elul. We say months of the year because a year starts from Tishrei. But we have a different head of the year regarding months, Nisan. Nisan is the first month of the year, and whenever the Torah states this event happened in this year from when the Jewish people left Mitzrayim, it starts counting Nisan as the year, as well as in the 3rd month, the 4th month, 2nd month from when the Jews left Mitzrayim. You're always going to have Nisan as the 1st month. Kings are compared to Nisan, as states Shlomo HaMelech was anointed in the month of Nisan. Was anointed in the 380th year after the Jews left Egypt, in the month of Sivan, and it's counted as a year because the years start from Nisan. We bring a proof from Aaron HaKohen. Aaron, the high priest, passed away in the 40th year the Jews left Egypt, in the month of Av. 6 months later, in the 40th year the Jews left Egypt, Moshe passed away. Moshe started to speak to the Jewish nation and passed away. But in the month of Shvat, in the 40th year, the Jews left Egypt. And if it's both in the 40th year, that means the years begin not from Tishrei, rather the years from when you left Egypt begin in the month of Nisan. Question is like this. Why specifically in the month of Nisan do we say is a new year that you count from when the Jews left Egypt? What about all the other months in between? So the Gemara is going to discuss this. Ask the Gemara, Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. States, when Aaron passed away, Aaron the high priest, the clouds of glory left. The honor of the Jewish people left, and then they were attacked by another nation. Which nation? Back in the Torah, it says, Vayishma HaKanani. Here it is. Aaron passes away. Yamas Aharon Berosh Har, Aaron passed away, and the Canaan is one of the 7 nations of Eretz Yisrael, of Israel, and they heard that the Jewish people came, and they went and they fought the Jewish people. And it wasn't really the Kanani, as we learned in Rashi. It was actually the nation of Amalek. The nation of Amalek, dressed as Kanani, came to fight the Jewish people. See, so this, I'm sure many of you recognize the picture. This is Mifza Entebbe. This is the Entebbe raid, where there were, the terrorists, Black October, Black September. They hijacked a plane to Entebbe, Uganda, and on July 4th, 1976, by the centennial, Israeli commandos came to Uganda and managed to free almost all of the hostages. What they did is, one of their tricks they tried to do was they had a replica of the Mercedes, of the same vehicle that Idi Amin, the dictator of Uganda, was using, and Idi Amin was visiting the hostages in Entebbe many times, so they came in his vehicle in his favorite vehicle, in order to fool the soldiers, thinking Idi Amin is coming back, and they should have the element of surprise. So that's Israeli commandos getting the car ready to fly to Uganda. The mistake they made was that Idi Amin actually changed. These are his vehicles on display. He actually recently, right before that, changed from this vehicle, which was a replica of, to this vehicle. So it wasn't a complete surprise, but it was surprising enough that they managed to accomplish what they wanted. Similarly, the nation of Amalek came to fight the Jewish people, and they came wearing the garb of the Canaanim, the other nations in Eretz Yisrael, hoping the Jews should pray to Hashem to save them from the Canaanim. And it didn't work. And because the Jewish people saw that these people who were fighting them were dressed like Canaan, but were speaking the language that Amalek would speak, and so they prayed to Hashem to save them. When why did they suddenly attack the Jewish people? What happened? After Aaron passed away, then Ministalku Anani covered the clouds of glory which were protecting the Jewish people. They left because they were there in the merit of Aaron, and they came to attack, and that's how you read the pasuk, the verse. It says, Vayiru ki eda ki gava Aaron, and the nation saw that Aaron passed away. You could read it, Vaye Ra'u. And suddenly they were exposed when Aaron passed away, because the clouds of glory left them, which would protect them. And now Amalek came to attack them. So we're up to Umidami. Says the Gemara, Mi dami. Do you mean to say that when Aaron passed away, Sichon, the king, was alive, and therefore, when it says that Moshe, in Chumash Devarim, it says Moshe Rabbeinu started speaking to the Jewish people. In the 40th year, they left Egypt after they destroyed Sichon, meaning that Sichon was alive when Aaron passed away. When it says that Aaron passed away, it says that the king of Arad was alive. Just go back to the pasuk, the verse. We'll bring them close. Both of these references. So let's remove all of the commentary so we can see the psukim straight. It says Aaron passed away. Verse 29, chapter 20. And then the Canaani, the king of Arad, heard and attacked the Jewish people. So the Gemara asked, Hasam Kinan, Hacha Sichon. It's how do you know? Why do you assume that Sichon was alive when Aaron passed away? When Aaron passed away, it says after he passed away, the king of Arad came to attack. It doesn't say Sichon, the king. Let's X out of this. Sichon. Sichon was the king of Cheshbon, which is right over here in the area later on, which belonged to Shevet Gad. Bashan, that's where Og was. Cheshbon is this area where Sichon was. It says the king of Arad came to attack the Jewish people. It doesn't say that Sichon came to attack the Jewish people. Why do you assume that Sichon was alive? Although the end of Parshas Chukas, the very end of Parshas Chukas, discusses a war against Sichon, right? Perhaps that took place earlier, because not everything is necessarily in correct chronological order. So the Gemara answers like this. Sichon and Arad are actually the same people. And when it says that the king of Arad heard the Jewish people came to attack them, it's actually going on Sichon. Sichon also came to attack the Jewish people together with Amalek. And the Gemara answers like this. Tana, we learned in a Brisa, was taught, who Sichon, who Arad. Sichon, Melech Sichon, is another name for Arad. This is, today you can still see some of the ruins, this whole area of the land of Sichon, of the cities of Sichon. Sichon and Arad are the same person. Why did he have two different names? Sichon, the word Sichon comes from the word shliach. Shliach in Hebrew is a foal, which means a young, strong, healthy horse, which is very quick, a pony. And Sichon shadoim l'shliach b'midbar. He was similar to a wild foal in the desert. So he was a very fast, he was a very quick-footed person himself. Canaan, al Shem Malchusai. He was called Canaan, not because he lived in Canaan, because if you look at the map, once again, he didn't live in Canaan. Canaan is over here on the left. Sichon lived in the area of Gad and Ruvain, which is on the other side of the Jordan, on the east bank of the Jordan River, which now is in the country of Jordan. But he's called Canaan not because he was from Canaan. Canaan is an adjective also. It's not just a noun saying these people live in a place called Canaan. Canaan can mean a merchant. Canaan could also have a connotation that he had the same characteristics as a people of Canaan. Or, another Marsha says, he was being paid money, protection money, to protect the land of Canaan from any invaders because he was so powerful. Mike, Shalom Aleichem. Morning. Rabbi Karp, thank you for coming and joining. So Canaan just means he was the same characteristic as Canaan. Similar to Moshe Rabbeinu's wife was called a Cushi, which means comes from Ethiopia, which is Cush. But she didn't come from there, she came from Midian. But she was called a Cushi because her tzidkus, her piety and her righteousness were so apparent, just like it's apparent if someone from Kush is black, so too she was so righteous, and it was so open everyone could see it even from far. So he was called Kenani. He had some of the characteristics of a Kenanim, and Canaan paid him to protect them. Uma Shemai, but what was his real name? His real name was not Sichon, and he was not really a king in Canaan. Arad, his real name was actually Arad. There's a city in southern Israel called Arad. That's where Israel has their nuclear reactor. And it's in the middle of the desert, literally. It's many Russians who live in Arad. That's where they settled many people when they came in. And Arad literally means a female donkey. His real name was Arad. He was a desert dweller. And the Gemara will bring now, Ikad Amri, some say other words, Arad Shadoim el Aroit. He was an Arad, but he was Arad because similar to a wild donkey, wild female donkey, which here it is, right? This is what they are. These are somewhere in Africa. They live in the desert. They're wild. There's herds of them all around. This is somewhere, I think, in this Hara desert. And so they're known to be very powerful, very quick, and also very vicious. If someone messes with them, they'll bite, they'll kick. So his name was Arad and he had the characteristics of an Aroid, a wild female desert donkey. Bamidbar in the desert. Canaan, why was he called Canaan al Shem al Chusay? Because he was actually a king, he was powerful over the people of Canaan. He was able to rule over them. And and what was his real name? His real name was Sichon. And when it says that the Kenani, the king of Arad, heard and came to attack the Jewish people, it's going on Sichon, who had the characteristics of an Aroid, a wild donkey, and he came to attack the Jewish people. And from here, we're going to, according to this teaching of this brisa, and therefore it comes out that Sichon was alive when Aaron passed away, and since the Jewish people fought Sichon, and Moshe speaking to them in the 40th year from when they left Egypt, as the Torah tells us. In addition, Aaron passed away in the 40th year from the 40th year they left Egypt. So we must say, once again, that Shvat, when Moshe spoke to the Jewish people, and 6 months before when Aaron passed away, both in the 40th year from when the Jews left Egypt, were both in the same year. So the new year for leaving Egypt, and consequently for kings, which follows that, must be somewhere between Shvat and Av. And so comes out that we could agree that Rish Chodesh Nisan, beginning of the month of Nisan, should be the new month should be the new year for kings. So that gives you a question that maybe someone can ask right away. Why do you assume that Rosh Chodesh Nisan should be the new year of kings? And when you say that a king if he was appointed an Adar for even one day, that's the first year, and Nisan will be the second year. As the Gemara said before, even one day could be a year, which is a tremendous thing to think about, how precious every single moment is by every single person. If one day could be a year for everyone, one moment, how precious and important it is. why choose specifically Rosh Chodesh Nisan as a new year of kings? We established it has to be somewhere before of, somewhere after Shvat, and Adar as well would be part of the previous year, because in Adar it says that Moshe passed away in the 40th year from when the Jews left Egypt. And he passed away in Adar. But why Nisan? Maybe Iyar should be the beginning, Rosh Chodesh of the new kings, Rosh Hashana of the new kings. Maybe Sivan should be Rosh Hashana of the new kings. And maybe Tammuz should be Rosh Hashana of the new kings. And maybe Rebbe Label could think of an idea for us with your if you had to eat a simon, like apple and honey, or carrots like we do in Rosh Hashanah, if you had to do it for the Rosh Hashanah of the new kings, what would you be eating on Rosh Chodesh Nisan? Ask the Gemara. So granted, when you count years from leaving Egypt, Av and Shvat are part of the same year. Why specifically count the new year from Nisan for kings? So the Gemara is going to bring an answer. But before the Gemara brings an answer, let's shortly discuss according to Chassidus. What type of thing is it to say that we have two different New Years? Tishrei is the beginning of the year. Have a happy, sweet New Year. Nisan, the first month of the year. Why do we have two different beginnings of a new year? I understand the other Rosh Hashanahs. For example, the Rosh Hashanah for Meiser Behema, an animal, that you could do in Elul, that's when the time many animals are born, previously. For the new trees, Rosh Hashanah could be for Meiser, when the fruit starts to grow, because they start to bud. Otherwise, it's different timing of the year. It's already during harvest season. It could be much harder to separate. For Chassidus, it's Yotes Kislev, when Alter Rebbe was freed from prison, and it was no more limitations on spreading Chassidus. But why Tishrei and Nisan are two different years, two different parts of the year? So look at the Gemara. We're going to have the Gemara actually over here on Daf Yud. Here it is, Shana Daf Yud. There's actually a Brisa, which we have two Tanaim disagree when the world was created. Tanya Rabbi Eliezer Aimer b'Tishrei Nivra Olam. Rabbi Eliezer says the world was created in the month of Tishrei. Starting on Chafei Elul, and Adam, the first man, was created on Rosh Hashana. And b'Tishrei noldu Avos, b'Tishrei Mesu Avos. On Tishrei, Avraham and Yaakov were born and passed away. Pesach Noilad Yitzchak. Rosh Hashanah Nifkada Pesach, Yitzchak was born. And Rosh Hashanah, that's when Sarah was remembered. Nifkada Sarah, Rachel, Chana. Sarah, Rachel, and Chana, three women in Tanakh who did not have children, and Hashem granted them children on Rosh Hashanah. Yotze Yosef Beis Asurin. Yosef left jail in Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah Batla Avodim Avaseinu Mitzrayim. On Rosh Hashanah, 6 months before 6.5 months before we left Egypt, the Jewish people stopped having to work, doing labor. We left in the middle of Nisan, but on Rosh Hashanah, 6.5 months before, we already stopped working, doing hard labor for the Egyptians. Ben Nisan Nigalu, and Rabbi Eliezer continues, in Nisan we were redeemed from Egypt. But Tishrei Asidin Lihigael, and Mashiach will come in the month of Tishrei, which of course could become long before that. Rabbi Yeshua says, the Nisan Nivra Olam, the world is created in the month of Nisan. And then he goes through the list of things once again. But he says the of us were born, our forefathers were born in the month of Nisan. And he concludes, Ben Nisan Alu, Ben Nisan Asidin Legal. In Nisan we were redeemed from Egypt, and in Nisan we will be redeemed again. And they continue with proofs that the world is created in Nisan, the world is created in Tishrei. Now, overwhelmingly, I would say, people understand and we say that the world is created in Tishrei. That's when we blow the shofar, we have apples and honey for a new year. As Chassidus explains, it's actually not a contradiction at all. And they're both discussing two different aspects of creation. One is koyach and one is payal. One is when was the world physically created, and one is when is the world spiritually created. Meaning the physical creation took place in the month of Tishrei, on Rosh Hashana. In a spiritual term, in spiritual ways, the spiritual world, which as we're learning now in Chassidus, and we're very familiar, that our world is just a tip of the end of the Hishtalshalus, but all the spirituality, all the spiritual worlds, and that's all in Memale, and all past Hishtalshalus and entire Machshava Gduma, all that happened in the month of Nisan. Nisan is a time of miracles. We were taken out of Egypt in a miraculous manner. Tishrei is when the world was created by Hashem. So there's two different journeys of the person: a Tishrei to Elul journey, a Nisan to Adar journey. And we have two different contexts. Either we could live as a miracle, or we could live as a regular physical existence, and each person has their own existence. And really, we have both. As a Jew, we live and we embrace both of them. And we have the ability, because we have a neshama and a guf, a godly soul, an animal soul, and a body, to embrace both parts. On 15th day of Nisan, we left Mitzrayim, started going toward Har Sinai, becoming more spiritual. We are citizens of Hashem's world. When Hashem revealed himself at Har Sinai, he says, Anochi Hashem Elokecha asher hozitzicha me'eretz Mitzrayim mibeis avodim. I have taken you out from Egypt, which was the place of slavery. Why couldn't Hashem say, I am Hashem your God, who created the heavens and earth? That's a much greater accomplishment, I would think, than taking us out of slavery in Egypt. Because when the Torah was given, Hashem was telling the Jewish people that I am not coming to you now as Hashem of creation, but I'm coming to you as Hashem of Mitzrayim, the physical world, the personal relationship we have with Hashem. And therefore, both parts, Nisan and Tishrei, are both very, very important. And we have the ability that as a Jewish person to live and to act in both ways. We have the ability to live in a physical world and to act like we're Nisan Jews, higher than this world, to transform this world into something otherworldly. So that is, in general, why we have two Rosh Hashanahs. So Rosh Hashanah, when everyone in the world is judged, a new year, that will be in the month of Tishrei. Rosh Hashanah for kings, and as we'll see soon in the Gemara, Dafka Jewish kings, because non-Jewish kings will say it's a Rosh Hashanah for them is in the month of Tishrei. A Jewish king, the purpose of a Jewish king isn't to show off and say, I'm like all the other nations and we have our own powerful king. That's exactly not the purpose of the king. And if a king is trying to make a legacy for themselves, there won't be known, they'll lose any greatness they had. Rather, the point of a Jewish king is to connect the people to Hashem in ways that they couldn't achieve by themselves. So a king has to be so special and so pious that he will be able to uplift the entire Jewish people more than anyone else. So the Rosh Hashanah for a Jewish king is in Nisan, the day the Mishkan was dedicated. Not the day that Adam, the first man, was made, but rather the day the Mishkan was dedicated, to show and to know how we always have to elevate ourselves above the world. So that's Rosh Hashanah of Kings is in Nisan. Let's start off with at least one of the questions of the Gemara now. This. Having established that the Rosh Hashanah has to be between Shvat and Av, the new year for Jewish kings, which month should it be? Mishnah said Nisan. Why not Iyar? Why not Sivan? Why not Tammuz? Maybe because in Tammuz, Israel is very hot, and everyone's going to have to be outdoors for, I'm not sure. So ask the Gemara of Emer Rosh Chodesh Iyar. Let's say, why not say that Rosh Hashanah for the new kings should be in the month of Iyar? Why not a different month? And the Gemara answers, Lo yisal kadaitach. This is not a, don't think to say, to propose this. Tichsiv, as it is written, Vayihi, B'chodesh harishon, B'shana hashenis, B'echad hamishkan, Hukam hamishkan. And it came to be when the Jewish people dedicated the Mishkan. It was in the second year that the Jews left Egypt, on the 1st of Nisan. Uksiv, and as it is written, Vayhi b'shana hashenis, b'chodesh hasheni na'ala anan mi'al mishkan ha'edus. And it was in the second year that the cloud on Chaf Iyar, that the cloud which was over the Mishkan telling the Jews to camp left. Midikoi ben Nisan, v'kari lashana shenis, v'koi be'iyar, v'kari lashana shenis, m'klad Rosh Hashanah lav iyarhu. I was looking previously for a timeline just of the years in the desert, and I couldn't find a proper one. The Jewish people were in the month of Nisan and in the month of Iyar, and both times it said that they were in the second year from when they left Egypt. It comes out that it cannot be Rosh Chodesh Iyar, because if it was on Rosh Chodesh Iyar, the new year from when the Jews left Egypt cannot be counted from Rosh Chodesh Iyar, because then it would have been the third year from when they left Egypt. We'll maybe pause this part tomorrow. Pause this part, recap that last part tomorrow. We'll continue now with the Gemara, the Veyaddata Moskva, the Maimer of the Rebbe Hershel, Veyaddata Moskva. If you have the book, if you need one, can't see it so clearly. Sorry. I have more copies you could use. Okay. Let's see. All right. Could you tell what this picture is? Anybody? Or this picture? This picture? Right. Not sure what these pictures are. These are all magic eyes. These are autostereograms. That's what it's called. Autostereograms. And for many people, I never myself had too much success with it. Perhaps others did. If you focus on it for, I think, 20 seconds or 10 seconds, a image will come out. Maybe some of you see the image. I'm not sure what it's supposed to be.
In the 90s, it was very famous. A lot of pictures in the 90s.
Right. I remember growing up, we had the magic eyes. Right. You look at it and you see a picture. If I look at it, I can't see a thing. Someone else who could look at it could find something else.
Has to be a bigger picture, you can see.
That was just the. Why are we bringing up this picture? Because all we saw over there was just a lot of dots and colors and swirl of different things. But really, there's an image, it's actually a 3D image that's hidden inside of there. It's hidden in plain sight. Just you have to be able to see what's hidden in plain sight. Just an example, the hand of Hashem is hidden. It's here in this world constantly. We just need to be able to sometimes see past the facade, past the beginning, in order to see the picture that's hidden on the inside. So we're actually almost done the mimer. We spoke about the idea of stars, constellations, zodiacs, astrology. These are a level from which Hashem brings chayas, life to the world, and those in the past at least who could look at it and could tell you what's happening perhaps, or what could happen later on. It's not, and then they would attribute power to the stars, to the moons, to the sun. They don't have any actual power to themselves. These are just the lowest form of spiritual beings, lowest form of malachim, and they have the most physical form, in whether it's gas or liquid or fire. And the chayas, energy of the world, comes through them. So someone who could observe and read what it's saying is not due to the fact and say, and let's say they were accurate in what they said. It's not that the stars have any power to control us or destiny. Our brachas, our blessings, come from Hashem. He said, "Gevaya agavaya shomer." Goes higher and higher, so many levels, higher and higher. Trying to find it in the Hebrew, but in the English we have it. Amnam, etzem havos umishem havaya. Creation truly comes from the name of Hashem, name of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Which is the creative force for everything that exists. It passes through the name of nature, Elokim, how Elokim created the world. In order to grant existence and life to everything in this world. Thus, the Ikiru or the Shem Havaya. Here it is. right over here. Let's try zooming in. So the main power is the light of Shem Havaya. Nimshach ayidei Shem Elikim ayidei malachim mazalis shesharshim b'Shem Elikim kol hamutzayim. And the name of Hashem comes down through the angels, which have the power, are given the ability to bring things down through Hashem, but have no free choice of their own, and they're all sourced in the name of Elikim. So everything that exists is really the name of Hashem, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, which is the infinite energy of Hashem. And when the name Elohim comes and make things repeat and make patterns of things again and again and again, so that's called science and nature. And Elohim, that's the nature, is nothing more than the medium through which Hashem engages us without overpowering us. So it's foolish to give any power or attention to anything in nature or anything in science has power, because exclusive power is Yud-Kei Vav-Kei of Hashem. Therefore, if you want to overcome nature, if naturally things don't look like they're going in a good way, we turn to Hashem, who is exclusive power over everything, to fix it. Because Hashem is constantly creating the nature over and over again. The conduit is not of any importance, and you can't attribute to success to it. As an example, Ukamoi Sha'amar Hayispair Hagarzin Elachoitzev, will the beautiful axe show off? Look at me, I'm a great axe that I built this I cut down this big tree, I built this big building. Harimuvan da memutz mitzad atzmei niklum miachar shein hashpa v'yishavus meita kim shal yadai amemutza over hashpa or likim avik al nevraim. The conduit is merely the means, the medium through which Hashem gives his bracha, gives his light. And therefore, no importance at all is attached to the actual medium. And just like an axe cannot boast that I am stronger, look at me, I built this tremendous building, this huge edifice. Similarly, no physical object, item, or person has any power over any specific or any individual person. During creation, if Hashem had to conceal himself through the veil of Shem Elikim, the prophet Yeshaya, one time when he's chastising the Jewish people, and he says, "Why are you?" And he gave an example, telling them, "Why are you serving this the idols, the sun and the moon and the stars?" It's like thanking an axe while ignoring the wood chopper. The axe has no power of its own, and the wood chopper is the one who decides what happens with the axe. Everything in nature and everything that happens in science as well is merely a tool which Hashem decided to choose to express himself in this world. Now, of course, a person could say, I was created this way, meaning our souls comes from Klippa, our Nefesh HaBahamis, our animal souls come from Klippa, and therefore, Klippa means the outside, and we're always drawn to what we see, to the outside. So we look at people and everyone superficially, and we judge a book by its cover. So if we see something giving us something we need, sunlight, vitamins, we might think that it comes from that place. We don't look deeper to where it actually comes from. So that's why we have a Torah as a mitzvah to Yidiyas Hashem, to know Hashem, to study and to meditate and to understand what's higher and seeing beyond what meets the eye. If you go to a restaurant and the waiter brings you food, it wouldn't make any sense to assume that the waiter is the one who cooked the food. Or if you see an advertisement and it says, eat this food and you'll be healthy, you're going to lose so much weight if you eat this food. It doesn't just because it was advertised like that doesn't mean that it's true. And if the food is not good for you, and you know it's bad, and you eat it, you might come to eat it because you saw on a big screen it says, eat this food, is good for you. And that happens because since we have a neshama, a soul, which is coming, an animal soul, which comes from klippas noiga, klippa, the shells, so we're drawn to externalities. We're drawn to not looking into a deeper reality. And that's the idea of this mimer, to know that Havaya hu Elikim, that whatever is happening in Elikim, in this world, is actually Havaya. So we don't have to be worried if we get a call from a lawyer, from a bank, to panic or to stay calm, because everything in this world is merely an expression of how Hashem chooses to engage with us. And there's never a conflict between the Torah and fulfilling the mitzvah and earning a livelihood or becoming better, anything else in science or anything else in nature. And the examples we brought were Avraham Avinu being thrown into the fiery furnace by Nimrod, Eliyahu Hanavi on the mountain Har Carmel with the prophets of the Baal, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, where the vinegar was able to burn the whole Shabbos. And everything in this world is only living and continuing with the power of Hashem constantly. As it says in the Zohar, Alma, the lower world, is always ready to receive from the upper world. However we act, that's how Hashem will act back to us. However we think, that's how Hashem in turn will act back to us. If we give a lot of power or credence to natural occurrence, to science, and therefore we're stuck, we're limited, so that's what will happen. If we say that we'll think good and we're going to look beyond the veil, then it actually will become revealed good. Mirza Hashem, tomorrow, it's only 2 minutes left today, but tomorrow we'll bring a video of Mrs. Rhoda Friedland. She was having a hard time having children, and in the late 1940s, and every doctor and professor she went to told her that she can't have children. And as a matter of fact, she had a yechidus with the Frierdiker Rebbe less than 48 hours before the Frierdiker Rebbe passed away. It was in Stalik. She had a yechidus on Erev Shabbos. And she went to the Rebbe, Frierdiker Rebbe, and told the Frierdiker Rebbe, we won't have children. And the Frierdiker Rebbe laughed and said, don't worry, you're going to have children. And after the Stalkos of the Frierdiker Rebbe, and they were trying to have children, and they came to the Rebbe over and over and over. There were doctors who were telling them it's impossible to conceive. Maybe have this surgery, that surgery. And the Rebbe kept on telling them to ignore the doctors. And till she went to one very great big doctor, she called him a doctor on Park Avenue, who looked at her and says, you have to have an emergency immediately. And booked her for you have to have a surgery emergency immediately. And booked her for a surgery. So she decided to go to the Rebbe, and she said, Rebbe, thank you very much for all of your caring and attention, but I decided I'm going to have the surgery the doctor told me to do, and if I have a surgery, I will never be able to conceive again. And the Rebbe asked her, please, do me one more favor. Go to one more doctor. She said, Rebbe, I went to the biggest experts in the world. Rebbe says, please, a personal favor, go to one more doctor. She went to the last doctor, and the doctor said, why are you coming to me? You're already pregnant. The idea is that as long as she was listening to the doctors, what doctors were saying, the doctors were right. They were not wrong. Scientifically, medically, they were right. And they came to the correct conclusion according to science. What the Rebbe was doing was lifting up Mrs. Friedland above the veil. Look past the reality, past the Itkin, past the science. And once the Rebbe was able to elevate her emunah, her belief, so then the rules of nature no longer have any hold over reality. And then that's when the miracle happened. That's what she found out. She was already pregnant, Baruch Hashem. So the idea is that the way we act is the way Hashem will respond back to us, to go past the veil. Okay, Shekayach, thank you everyone for joining in the time of day.